You do not become Prime Minister by filling out a simple application. Long before Downing Street, your life is shaped by local meetings, party conferences, late-night debates, and the slow construction of a public reputation. You begin as a parliamentary candidate, knocking on doors in the rain, and asking strangers to trust you. Every conversation teaches you that national politics begins with ordinary people, talking about rent, schools, hospitals, and whether anyone in power is listening. Winning a seat in Parliament feels like the end of a long campaign, but it is really the beginning of a much harsher test. You enter the House of Commons knowing that every speech, vote, and mistake may follow you for years. As a new MP, much of your time is spent on constituency casework rather than television interviews. Families bring you problems involving housing, immigration, benefits, and public services, and many of them have already run out of patience. Inside Parliament, you learn that influence depends on preparation, relationships, and timing. A strong speech may be remembered, but quiet conversations in corridors often shape what happens before anyone enters the chamber. You gradually rise through junior positions, taking on policy briefs that few members of the public will ever see. Each promotion brings more authority, but also more documents, more scrutiny, and less control over your own time. Eventually, you are appointed to the cabinet and sit around the table where national decisions are made. You discover that every department wants more money, every minister believes their crisis is urgent, and the country cannot fund everything at once. Leadership speculation begins before you have openly declared any ambition. Journalists watch your speeches, colleagues count your supporters, and even an ordinary conversation can be interpreted as the beginning of a challenge. When the party leadership contest finally begins, your life becomes a continuous series of speeches, interviews, and private negotiations. You must persuade party members that you can unite people who often disagree on almost everything. Winning the leadership does not automatically make you prime minister, but it changes the weight of every word you say. From that moment, markets, foreign governments, civil servants, and millions of voters begin preparing for what your leadership might mean. A general election campaign pushes you from city centers to factories, schools, hospitals, and community halls. You repeat the same promises until you know them by heart, while knowing that one unguarded moment could dominate the campaign. Election night is a strange mixture of exhaustion and suspense. Results arrive one constituency at a time until the numbers finally show that your party can form a government. The next morning, you travel to meet the monarch and are formally invited to become prime minister. The ceremony is brief, but the constitutional responsibility placed on you is enormous. You then arrive at Downing Street and walk toward the famous black door. Cameras capture the moment, but behind the image is a person who has had almost no sleep and is about to inherit every unresolved problem in the country. Your first speech outside number 10 must sound calm, clear, and hopeful. You promised to serve the whole country, even though millions of people voted against you and many already expect you to fail. Inside, senior civil servants begin an immediate briefing on the state of government. You are shown classified threats, economic pressures, public service failures, and decisions that cannot be delayed until you feel ready. The first cabinet meeting reveals how quickly political unity can become disagreement. Ministers who supported you during the leadership campaign now compete for influence, funding, and control over the government's direction. Choosing who enters the cabinet is one of your earliest tests of judgment. Rewarding loyalty may strengthen your position, but appointing the most capable people can mean giving power to potential rivals. Your private office controls a diary that now belongs more to the country than to you. Meetings begin early, continue through meals, and often end long after your family has gone to sleep. Every morning starts with intelligence, security, and economic briefings. Some days the information is routine, while on others a single paragraph may change the direction of the entire government. At Prime Minister's questions, you stand at the dispatch box while the opposition tries to expose weakness. The chamber is loud and theatrical, but every answer must also reassure your own MPs that you remain in control. Behind the noise of Parliament, legislation requires endless negotiation. A policy you announced in a speech must survive legal review, cabinet disagreement, parliamentary votes, and the possibility of rebellion from your own side. The national budget forces your government to turn political promises into numbers. Funding one priority may require reducing another, raising taxes, or borrowing more, and every choice creates winners and losers. When the economy weakens, confidence can disappear faster than any government can rebuild it. Businesses delay investment, families fear rising costs, and your opponents argue that every negative figure is proof of failure. A major public service crisis puts the government under immediate pressure. Hospitals, transport networks, or local authorities may already be struggling, and the public expects you to fix systems that took years to deteriorate. Then comes a national emergency that no manifesto predicted. You enter a secure briefing room with military officers, scientists, police leaders, and senior officials, knowing that incomplete information must still lead to a decision. During the emergency, every option carries risk. Acting too slowly may cost lives, while acting too aggressively may create fear, disruption, or consequences that cannot easily be reversed. You address the nation from Downing Street and explain what the government is doing. Millions watch for reassurance, but you must avoid promising certainty when the situation is changing by the hour. After the speech, the work continues out of sight. Officials track new developments, ministers argue over resources, and you sign off decisions while knowing that the full outcome may not be understood for months. Foreign policy brings a different kind of pressure. At international summits, every handshake and seating arrangement is analyzed, while private discussions involve trade, defense, alliances, and conflicts far beyond public view. You may visit troops, disaster zones, or communities affected by tragedy. These moments demand genuine empathy because the people standing in front of you are not interested in political slogans. Back home, scandals can consume the government even when they do not involve you directly. A minister's behavior, an undisclosed meeting, or a misleading statement can quickly become a test of your honesty and judgment. Deciding whether to dismiss a colleague is rarely simple. Keeping them may damage public trust, but removing them can expose division and create an enemy who knows exactly how your government operates. Your own MPs begin to worry about opinion polls and their chances of re-election. Some defend you publicly while questioning your leadership privately, and rumors of letters, plots, and possible challengers spread through Westminster. Public protests gather outside Parliament and Downing Street. Some demand faster action, others reject your policies entirely, and the sound of anger becomes part of the background to your working day. The media follows every movement of your government. A detailed policy may receive little attention, while a facial expression, awkward sentence, or photograph can define the news for an entire week. Social media makes the pressure constant and personal. Praise, criticism, misinformation, and abuse arrive every minute, creating a version of public opinion that is loud but not always representative. Your family experiences the office differently from you. Security limits ordinary life, plans are canceled without warning, and private moments are repeatedly interrupted by events happening somewhere else in the country. Late at night, you sometimes sit alone with briefing papers after the building has gone quiet. The decisions feel less like headlines then, and more like choices that will affect people you may never meet. As the next election approaches, you must defend your record rather than simply offer hope. Every promise is compared with what actually happened, including the compromises, failures, and events that changed your original plans. The campaign becomes a judgment on your leadership. You travel the country again, but this time every crowd contains people whose lives were directly affected by decisions made under your government. If your party loses, the result becomes clear in the early hours of the morning. There's no long transition because the country requires a functioning government and power must move quickly. You return to Downing Street to deliver your final statement. You thank staff, accept responsibility, and leave the building while cameras record the end of an office that once seemed to consume your entire life. A short time later, another prime minister enters the same door and begins receiving the same briefings. The machinery of government continues, reminding everyone that the office is more permanent than the person holding it. Years later, your legacy is still debated through decisions, crises, reforms, and mistakes. Being prime minister may bring authority, but it also means carrying responsibility for choices whose consequences can outlast your time in power.